July 1993. I
Wow.
walked into the hotel in London and looked around the room and thought to myself, these fucking losers, they need help.
Hi, everyone. This is Erkan Ali and Simon Ekin and David Sherman. This is our first of LAL Life After Landmark conversation. And we are very excited, very, very excited and very proud to have David Sherman join us. Si, is there anything you'd like to say before we dig into David?
You can only say you are excited. You can't speak for anyone else. I'm glad you are excited. I'm yet to be excited. I'm just sitting in the stands waiting to see just how excited I will be. I think
No
I probably
pressure.
will be quite excited.
No pressure, right?
Of course. I'll get off it.
Oh.
I can get off it. No worries. Go on then. So go on. Is that all you've got to say?
Yes, carry on.
No, so listen, like I said, this is the first of a conversation that Simon and I were discussing. We've been discussing this for a few months, haven't we, really? Quite a while, about what it'd be like to sort of gather graduates from the decades. We call it Life After Landmark. In other words, probably people who are out of any official role, probably not even participating anymore, and kind of share our journeys and a bit when we first did the program, how we got involved with the forum itself, and like how is it still playing a part in our lives today. So on that note, David Sherman, who's currently in Canada or in outer space. Woo, David, welcome to the show. It's great to see you here.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you two lovely humans. I have to acknowledge you. This is a great idea. Really great idea. It's been many, 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 many years, a lot of water under the bridge, but this is a wonderful idea and I'm excited about it. So it's just great to be with you both.
Brilliant. Great start. So what I'd like to say is, so I first participated in the Landmark Forum in January 97. And that's where I met Simon Ekin at his Landmark Forum as well. So, Si, that is a long time ago, right? Coming up for 30 years. Now, let's ask the true veteran. David, you sent some photos the other day, and I thought that must be like in the 80s or something. But
oh,
anyway,
my God. July 1993.
Wow.
I walked into the hotel in London and looked around the room and thought to myself, these fucking losers, they need help. Oh my God, I so hated, they sat down right on the back row, counted up all the chairs, times it by 235 pounds, worked out how much money they were making. And then when Grace, the forum leader, walked to the front of the room in a smart suit and I could see where they were spending the money, that's how my journey started, you know.
Wow. So let's cast ourselves back to pre-July 93. What was life like? And what was the conversation, David, that tipped you to register and go and participate?
Well, if I'm really honest, I think back to those days, I was kind of lost as a human being. Not that I would ever admit that to anybody, right? But deep inside of a story that me as a human being, that I was stupid, not good enough, and life was not fair. And I had a mountain of evidence to prove that those views were accurate and real. And I'd been a hairdresser since I left school, basically. I left school 3 months before my 16th birthday. And if I go back beyond that, I was traumatized from school, severely bullied, only Jewish kid in the whole school. The whole school knew it. And then on top of that, I'm dyslexic. Now, back in the 65, 67, 68, there was no dyslexia. There was no extra support. There was nothing. You just got labeled, right? Slow or whatever it was. Not as bad as the label I gave myself. So I came out of school well balanced, chip on both shoulders, not having a clue of what I could do. I didn't get any O levels or certainly no A levels. And my mum, bless her, she came up with the idea that you should be a hairdresser.
Now I was gonna ask you about that because I know a few hairdressers. Yeah, hairdresser. So hairdresser is someone who cuts women's hair, and a barber cuts men's hair. So was it a way of you getting to meet some? Yeah. Were you like trying to pick up some girls?
Exactly. That was a perk, right? And hairdressers can do men and women. I managed to get a job at Michael John in Mayfair. And I took to it like a duck to water because I thought I had no other choice. And I certainly wasn't good enough to be anything else and not smart enough to be anything else. And I was quite artistic. I mean, a lot of dyslexic people are very artistic. And I got to be around lots of ladies, which was great. And you know what? I whizzed through the apprenticeship, did a 3-year apprenticeship in 2. Then when I was 18, I went to the States, lived in Los Angeles for 4 years, worked in Beverly Hills, and at that time of my life, I would say my outlook on life was very, very, very narrow, came home to England when I was 22, mostly because of my lifestyle in LA was not sustainable at all. Very soon opened my own business. And by the time I got to the Landmark Forum, I was in my early 30s. And whilst successful on the outside, on the inside, empty. The thought of being an old hairdresser, the thought of, is this it? Is this all my life can be? Was so depressing and upsetting and it steals all of your enthusiasm and inspiration for anything else. So it was a friend of mine who told me about the Landmark Forum, took me to an introduction. I hated it. Alan Roth, I don't know if you remember him, was leading the introduction. And I went up to him at the break and said, well, why should I do this? And he said, David, just go and register. Oh, okay. So, but I was, looking back at it, lost. Yes, I had material success, but I had very little quality of life. Looking for love in all the right places, looking to try and find myself through material things, money or car or home or, just completely, I want to use the word unconscious, narrow.
Not self-aware as such.
No, not self-aware at all.
And,
just...
And I guess this is a question we've all kind of asked ourselves as graduates, right? Is where do you think you would have, where would you be now? I know this is a really difficult question to ask. Where would you be now, looking from here back there, if David Sherman in 93?
You know what comes to mind? Pushing up the daisies, mate.
You'd have been dead by now.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't even comprehend, that I could have spent another 30 years in the hairdressing industry. I think I would have topped myself, not that there was anything really wrong with it. And I don't want to sound ungrateful. I worked hard, et cetera, but, in terms of fulfilling one's potential, not even on the scale,
Yeah.
So, and at the same time, I don't feel comfortable ascribing all of my experiences since Landmark to Landmark because I knew what it took for me. It's like somehow a door got opened in the Landmark Forum. that weekend with Grace, it was like getting hit by a truck. Seriously. And her being German and me being Jewish, it could not have been a better match, actually. I mean, I hated her at 9 o'clock on Friday morning, but by, Sunday night, I wanted to marry her. It's like, so much had changed. And my view of the world, the view of myself, it completely rearranged my molecules completely. And it was my first experience with personal development. Now, since Landmark, and I'd be very, very interested to hear from other graduates, what other things have we all done? Many, many things, I'm sure. Some great, some as good, if not better than Landmark, and maybe some not so good. But it started a lifelong addiction to personal growth and development for me. Obviously, did the whole curriculum, did the IFLP, became a Landmark Forum leader in July 96, so almost 3 years exactly. And was a staff member for a long time.
I mean, just to put that in perspective, right? Because that sounds like 3 years to become. That's going at quite a pace, isn't it? That's not usually like.
I was. I was on a mission.
Yeah, you clearly something had shifted in '93, July '93, for you to be 3 years later, knocking on the door of being a Landmark Forum leader. I mean, that's quite a meteoric progress, even in a world a world of breakthrough and transformation. That's quite a pace.
Do you know what, Erkan? I think that partly it was driven by my own sense of drive. I came out of school on such a mission to prove to myself and the world something that was unprovable, like to prove that I wasn't stupid and not good enough and life wasn't not fair. And of course, the more I tried to prove that it wasn't that way, it became that way, like this self-fulfilling prophecy. But it installed in me a type of drive, which I also think played a part in my commitment to become a forum leader. Because I remember very clearly in the advanced course, at the end when you stand on stage and you say, I am the possibility of, Nancy Zapolsky led that program and I was 110% in it. And I walked up to the stage and I turned around and I said, I am the possibility of infinite human enlightenment. And that's who I am. What the fuck? What? Really? Like, how on earth is that going to ever be fulfilled?
Yeah.
And then the next thought that came after the upset was, well, you could become a forum leader.
Second best. But
right? That would do it.
Was becoming a forum leader something that was just a given for you through the process, or was it something that came, like you said that in the advanced
No, it
course?
came after I said that.
Yeah, so it was literally...
I was so upset. On the Monday, I made an appointment to go and see Nancy. Because I said, look, I said this thing yesterday at the advanced course, and I've got no idea where to go or how to fulfill that. And it was in a conversation with her that the possibility, the opportunity to be a forum leader. Now, that's, I didn't understand the process I needed to go through to get there, getting on staff, getting qualified as a seminar leader, reaching certain milestones, et cetera, et cetera. But once I saw the pathway, I was like a dog with a bone, like just, we're going to make it happen.
And at that time in '93, was there an IFLP program?
Yeah.
There was. I was already part of
it. Yeah. I don't think it was actually called I can't quite remember. But it wasn't quite 93. This would have been 90, God knows, 94, maybe even 95. I did the IFLP with Dilip leading it. And he'll tell you, I was an arrogant little shit, right? He will tell you that, right? He'd get so far behind on his timeline. I'd be sitting in the front row. He'd be on the stage. This was in the West End. I can't remember the name of the road that the office was in. And I'd be sitting there looking at him going, my watch, like you're late.
So Dilip, on that note, I mean, Dilip Sahaj Patel, he opened our ILP. Oh God,
Right.
that's a memory. That's a memory. That was the weekend that Princess Diana was funeral
Yes.
was happening, and we were in Kensington, and the roads, everything was shut, and it was like, there's no way you can't be there. And there's millions of people, well, hundreds of thousands of people on the streets, and that was September '97.
Okay,
Well,
I remember being on a plane, flying back from the States, having done some maybe forum leader forward, and the pilot announced that she had died. And I got off that plane and went straight to an IFLP thing. Maybe that was the same time. I don't know. Too many years.
It was our first weekend. It was our first weekend, and Dilip led it. And so for the audience, Princess Diana dying was like, it was a shock for the whole country. I think everybody. And there was this bit I remember. I think it was Dilip said it. Those who want to stay and watch some of the footage can stay, and if you're not interested, go do what you're going to do. But we're going to take a half hour, whatever it was, and this time think of your sisters and your mothers and your, like the women in your life, and think there's a woman that's very prominent in our society and obviously at the time, we didn't really know what really happened. But I mean, there's lots happened since then. And I just remember Dilip being I just thought, what a class act. I think that was the thing with the leadership for me. Bar very few, and I'm not going to name names in terms of it, but the leadership level and the training and the mastery of the seminar leaders, the SCLP leaders, forum leaders was such a high gradient. I mean, for me, it just kept on. There was a gap. There's a gap. And it was like something more and more to kind of glean from these people at the front of the room, and they were definitely continually. And I mean, going through the process we know is constantly working on yourself, your triggers, your unresolved issues, to be the best possible version of yourself authentically, which also meant we did share all the crappy stuff. I think, Sai, you shared something today about picking up your daughter from the airport, and do you want? I don't want to take this. You haven't said anything yet, so do you want like a couple of minutes and then we'll move on?
Oh, that's so generous of you, Erkan.
I just noticed that you just sit there going.
No, but I'm joking. We joke like that. I was just. It was just to share about David. Going to collect my 20-year-old daughter from the airport today, and just feeling like she was really excited. She's going back to see her boyfriend, her mother were separated, and they're all having a big party and all that kind of stuff. And I said, maybe, why don't I come along? And she was like, nah, it's not a good idea. And then I said, well, so when can I see you? Like tomorrow, the weekend? She said, well, maybe next weekend, and I'm just clearly not a priority. And I just noticed the point as I shared on the group, I just noticed the upset coming, and then just releasing it. And to be able to do that once in a life is incredible, and to have that as an
Simon, I have to tell you, that really touched me. I watched that video this morning, and it really did touch me because I've experienced the same thing, right? I'm a divorced father like yourself, 4 kids, and my youngest daughter, Ella, who's 23, she's so busy, university, working, friends, she's this brilliant, brilliant human being, but I'm not a priority. I'm just not. And it takes something to be okay with that, and I think that our children teach us 2 things, trust and patience, right? She'll come around. We were so close when she was growing up. And she did say to me once that, she had me on a pedestal and I'd fallen off during the divorce and it was hard for her. And then me moving to Canada permanently was also very hard. Although we had the conversation, how do you feel about it? Is it okay if I do it? And, but it's still, was challenging for her. So, mate, I really feel for you. You know, she'll come around. I promise. She will. She
Thanks,
loves
David.
her daddy.
Yeah, thanks,
She
man. I
does
really
love her
appreciate
daddy.
it. Thank you,
Yeah.
man.
Okay.
I've got a couple of things I want to say to you. I mean, one thing I've always been in the background kind of curious about. All the stuff is coming back to me, and I remember your kind of incredibly speedy, process to becoming a forum leader. I thought you led the IFLP with Dilip.
I did.
You did.
I did lead it with Dilip. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you want to answer this now. I mean, my question that I always had is, you were a forum leader, not for very long, as I remember. And then, and you'll refresh my memory. I'm realizing how really unreliable my memory is. It's incredible to notice. So yeah, I was always curious about what had you, get in and then get out. And if you, I don't know if you want to answer any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer it. It's often a question that, I got a lot at the beginning. I left in 2000. So, for about 4 years, I led the forum, and I was so at home leading the forum. It was my happy place. It was, I remember I'll never forget the very first one in Austin, Texas. They flew me in. We've done all the preparation. You've been in training. You're doing 3 forums a month, kind of back to back. Then you get a week off and then 3. And you've been doing that for a long time. And I remember sitting at the back of the room in the production chair. There's about 120 people in the room. 9 o'clock on the dot, I stand up, walk down the aisle, and I distinctly remember leaving David Sherman in that chair and bringing out forum leaders. I walked to the front of the room. And those first forums were what they call home runs, which meant every measure was met or exceeded. And I really loved leading the forum. Now, here's the things I didn't love was the relentless pressure to perform, the continuing addition of additional accountabilities. So I was responsible for the seminar leader program in Europe. They made me center forum leader for Denmark and then Israel. And the overwhelm was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this conversation in my head, which was left over from the conversation of life not being fair, was this is not fair. I've got no life. And you're supposed to be in this, well, you've given up your life. You're a forum leader. Fuck off. No, I haven't. It was my sort of internal reaction to that. And I think, I remember very clearly the day I resigned. And it was really traumatic. It took me a long time to get over it. We were at a forum leader forward in America in New Orleans. And they brought me in. I'd already, they'd kind of like tried to process me, and I threw my toys out of the pram and reacted and said, that's it, I'm done, I'm leaving, I resign. And they brought me into the main room, stuck me in the director's chair in front of all the forum leaders. So it's kind of imposing. And then Nancy Sapolsky and Phyllis Allen walked up and started to have a conversation with me. And they said, are you willing to have this conversation inside of the promise that you made to be a forum leader forever? It was such a triggering question. And I remember squirming in this chair with this side going, oh, I love you guys. I love you, Nancy. I so want to say yes. And this side being the little rebel, like, fuck off. No, I'm not going to do it. And this side won. And I said, no. It was kind of the wrong question to ask me in the first place, really. It was harsh and it came across as uncaring. And then they had a little sort of private chat. And then Phyllis said, okay, well, we de-designate you as a forum leader. Okay, I'd already resigned. And that was that. So, it was heartbreaking, because there was this thing I was doing that I so loved to do. And I felt overextended in so many other areas. Just let me lead the forum, you know? And it was heartbreaking. But at the same time, once I had healed from the sort of trauma of that, best thing that ever happened. Best thing that I ever did. And the best thing that ever happened that I left. And that was that.
I say that a lot to people as well. Yeah. Exactly
yeah. I mean, it really was. It was kind of scary because I had no idea what I was going to do. It was like, I'm going to go back to being a hairdresser. No, I had no idea, where life would go from that. But I did believe that I had all the tools I needed. So, yeah, that's how that happened. Of course, it became a little bit adversarial. You get a communication from the general counsel. Don't you use any of our material? We'll sue you. You're not allowed to work as a trainer or a coach or all of that. It was very aggressive, but unenforceable as well. The bottom line, and I've always held the opinion that we lost. I think there was 48 forum leaders when I was a forum leader, and a long list of people who wanted to be forum leaders that never made it. And I think we lost a lot of good people that could have been forum leaders easily if the culture had been a little bit more gentle and a little bit more loving and a little bit more respectful. But it is what it is. So,
and what year was that, David?
That was, I left in 2000.
So 2000. Okay.
Yeah, we'd already had, the 2000 scare, everything, the planes are going to drop out the sky. I was in Los Angeles having led the forum over there. And then there was, later that year, there was the forum leader forward in America. So it was sometime in the middle of that year that I was done.
That was pre 9/11. So you were kind of done and dusted before 9/11 came along.
Yeah.
And then that's an amazing story. Sorry, what do you want to
I remember the office in the towers because I'd been there. I'd led in New York. New York is a wild place to lead the forum. Really wild.
Well, because so for our audience, Landmark back then, I don't know if it was the South Tower or the North Tower, had offices in
can't remember.
Yeah, no, I can't remember. But apparently they used to have something. I can't remember if I was telling this story to the other day. But they used to have something called the Millionaires Club at the Landmark offices in New York, and only the millionaires were allowed to empty the bins, and it was to kind of keep them humble. And I thought that was quite an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, I was with two graduates on the day that happened. A lady called Anne Bates. I don't know if you remember her. No. Lovely lady, Landmark grad. And I was with Dilip. And we were in Anne's home in central London watching that unfold on the TV. It's one of those things you'll never forget.
No, definitely not. So how does being a Landmark graduate live in your life day to day, David? I mean, as an example, how would you see it kind of, where you normally go left, you go right because of that training? I mean, there's still the identity.
You know what? So I think sometimes you're so in your life that you can't see what else there is. It's not something that I'm present to on a daily basis. I think some of the principles I've managed to institutionalize within myself. Just like listening to Sai this morning on his little video about his daughter and catching that negative interpretation. But I also think in my own work and my own life, I've managed to evolve some of those distinctions, that fit better for me now I mean, I just wasn't capable of evolving those distinctions back then because they were the only distinctions I had. Rackets and what's the other one?
Winning
Your winning formula, those sort of things, right? I mean, they're the only distinctions I ever had other than the shit I was living in prior to Landmark. But now, 33 years on, many, many other personal development experiences, my own life, there's been a slow growing of a different type of approach. And, I was never wanting to steal Landmark's technology, although I do know where that technology now has come from very, very clearly. Well, we won't get into that. But I've kind of been able to find my own way. And I've had a career and a life that I could honestly not have imagined. Like my mind, my creative thinking, I couldn't have, not for a second, have imagined doing the things that I've done over the last 33 years and living the life that I've lived. And that doesn't mean it's all been perfect. Far from it.
No, for sure.
Far from it.
No, for sure. I mean, David, if you don't mind me, just can you share a little bit of the work you're doing with Indigenous people over there in Canada as well?
Yeah,
that's something
sure.
We've been talking about, and for those who might not be aware, I'm in North Cyprus, the divided island of, North and South, and we've got a lot of generational trauma here. We've had all sorts of issues going on here, but I don't want to get into that. But what you've been doing your own work with Indigenous peoples in Canada.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about
that? I have to say, Erkan, I feel when I deliver this work, it's like the last 30 odd years have brought me to this place to do this. And it's a mixture of, the consulting work that I have done over the years and the development of my own methodology and my own processes and my own, ways of thinking and distinctions. So I met my wife, Laurie, 20 years ago in Brazil. Mm-hmm. We were at a psychic hospital, believe it or not. I was freshly divorced. I really had felt I'd completely lost my mojo. My pilot light had gone out. And I'd found out about this place by accident. And I thought, that's where I got to go. That's where I'll get my healing back. I'll get my mojo back. And, so I just, booked a little posada, which is a bed and breakfast in the middle of Brazil, in the middle of nowhere. And we go there. And that's where we met. And we've been together ever since, 20 odd years ago. And we spent half of our time in Europe raising my rest of my kids. And then about 10 years ago, I moved here to Canada because Laurie became a grandma here. And she says, I got to go back and be grandma. Okay, fine. I'll come too. And when I first came here, I knew about the culture, the way of life, because we've been here many times. I knew hunting was a big deal. I know hockey is a very, very big deal. And I love Alberta. It's got a kind of wild Texas type of rebellious feel to it. But here's what I didn't know. And I call it Canada's dirty little secret. And that's the Indigenous story. Residential schools, the Indian Act, how these people were treated is horrific. Like many Indigenous people around the world, by the way, particularly Aboriginal people in Australia and New Zealand and so forth. And the more I've had this sort of connection with extreme cultures. I really love extreme cultures, whether I've worked in India or I had a 3-year contract in Saudi Arabia that I loved doing. So I have this sort of draw towards understanding culture. And the more I understood about the Indigenous story and the way that they were treated, the more I came to realize that, oh my goodness, the work that I've been doing can make a real difference to these people. And personal growth and development is very much seen as a white thing. as a colonial thing. So they cut their own nose off to spite their face. They don't get any of that, despite what happened to them being wrong. There's no world that we would want to live in where what happened to them would be okay. You know, when you have, was it 300,000 Indigenous people were forced into residential school. They were given numbers. They were taken, their Indigenous names were taken from them. Their hair was cut. They were, you know, stripped of everything that they could bond with. And 25% of them never made it out of those schools through abuse, malnutrition, disease, etc. But the problem was the ones that did make it out, they had no identity, because everything that a young human needs to bond with to get that sense of self, that sense of identity, was stripped away from them. So they went home with this traumatized sense of self that was destroyed. So on an ontological basis, they had died, right? But they're physically still alive. That pain is so unbearable that all you can do is numb yourself. Sex, drugs, alcohol, food, whatever it is. And so this is where generational trauma comes in. Those people eventually had their own children. They had no way of knowing how to bring up children in a healthy way. So they abused those children because that's all they knew. But this time it's worse because you're being abused by your own people, not a nun or a priest or a teacher or whatever. And so it's passed down from generation to generation. The 60s scoop added to that. You know, the last residential school, I think, was closed in 97. So not that long ago, believe it or not. And consequently, Indigenous communities in Canada, particularly here in Alberta, are just racked with drug and alcohol addiction and all sorts of, you know, overdose. You know, when people don't see a future worth living, they take their lives. So the more I found out about this, the more I thought, oh, I could really make a difference here. And that has been my driving purpose, to make a difference. I don't care if I'm working for a big corporation or I'm working for an Indian tribe. But I needed to understand the culture, understand the issues. I found a group that were working in northern BC, a place called Prince George. And actually, the guy running these programs is a Landmark graduate, believe it or not. So I joined forces with him, went up there for about a year, backwards and forwards, learning what I needed to learn before I was ready to open our business here called Eagle Retreats. And, you know, the first challenge is trust. Because look, they look at me, I'm a short white guy with an English accent with a solution to a problem that was caused by white people. Not a lot of trust, right? So, you know, you have to overcome that. It takes a lot of time. But we've now done several programs, including week-long retreats and 2-day seminars. And it is so fulfilling. You know, it's so wonderful when you support someone to end a story that they created about themselves because their uncle raped them at the age of 6 or whatever. You know, that you can support that person's healing by transforming the view that they have of themselves that has led them to suffer for 20, 30, 50, 60 years. And so that's what we do here for the Indigenous population. It's been a real honor. It's been a real challenge as well.
Well,
it's a real honor.
I mean, the question I want to ask you is, what have you learned? I don't know if it's about yourself. I mean, it may be, but it's like, what have you learned that's kind of aided you in being effective in that niche?
Well, first of all, it's not personal, right? You know, when they call me a munyao, which is not a term of endearment, right? I'm only after their money. It's not
Yeah.
personal, right? It's not personal, right, David? Don't take it personally. Okay. And it's also shown me that, do you know what? Even after all these years, I can do this shit. It's like I can make a difference, right? It's like, okay, that's good. And also to be committed but unattached.
Oh, well, yeah.
I'm not on some holy crusade. I'm not the white savior of the indigenous population. I'm not going to do that. And I'm very, very proud of the material that we've created. Really beautiful. So yeah, it's also, it gives back in a way that even when I do consulting work for corporations these days, little bits come from my experience of working with Indigenous that come into it. And you'll get this, your immersive experience in Cyprus. What was stolen from Indigenous people that was really stolen from all of us, by the way, is their whole culture is steeped in connection. Connection to each other, connection to the land, connection to nature, connection to the water, connection to the creator. That's what was stolen from them, connection. And the opposite of addiction is connection. It's not sobriety. So restoring connection. And you know what? Every human being has experienced some disconnection in their life's journey, right? It's like it's impossible to go through a childhood and to grow up and not have had some experience of being disconnected from yourself or from your family or from your friends or whatever. It's just the various levels of disconnection. And that has definitely added a level of intimacy and a level of beauty, if for want of a better word, to my corporate work as well, which has been really nice. Not that I do as much these days.
No, but nothing's ever lost, is it? Like I said, something like preparation never goes unwasted. If you're out there doing it, you're learning and you're internalizing, and it pops out at another point, and you think, "Wow, how'd you connect those two words together?" But yeah, it's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we're kind of we've done our time, David. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know you've been dealing with some horrendous situation back at home, so
yes, we had a flood.
Yeah.
Yeah, catastrophic rain here in Alberta, whilst you guys in Europe are, catastrophic heat.
So before we sign off, is there? What would be your observation of what we're trying to do here, and how would you see it moving forward, and what would you wish for this? Life after Landmark. This is the first one. Let's see. What do you think could open up? How could we take this further forward? Or any comments on what we're doing in this? I mean, when I say
sure.
The three of us, we're all in it. All the graduates are part of it. We're just facilitating something.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see the WhatsApp group grow and some, familiar names come into that. I think this is a really beautiful idea, mostly because it's just organic. There's no, intention. Other than to have this be a valuable experience for people. I would, this has been a really lovely conversation. I hope people got some value from it, and I'd be more than happy to have people reach out to me on the WhatsApp group with any questions or any comments. Something I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear what all the graduates have done beside Landmark. Right?
Great question.
It's like, so I can share with you one of the most amazing things I did since Landmark, and I would actually say this could even have been more powerful than Landmark ever was for me, is a program called The Path of Love. And it's produced and delivered by a company called Path Retreats. And I will put their website on the group. It's the most beautiful. I know it sounds hippy dippy. I promise you, it's a proper commando course. I did the Path of Love in Byron Bay in Australia. And it was just the most phenomenal immersive, transformational, like truly transformational, not like pop psychology transformation, really transformational program I think I've ever done. It's beautiful work. So, and I would love to hear from other people what they've done.
Fantastic, David. Any last words for you, Simon?
Well, when you said, I think we're done, I was like, oh, are we? Okay.
Well,
It's fine.
Okay.
And
Well, hold on. We've been going nearly we'll come up to 50 minutes. 40, you know.
Wow,
I was thinking
it's gone quickly.
I was thinking at least 3.5 hours.
Well, if you want to go another hour, I'm going to get a bottle of wine and we can crack on. You know?
Wait till we're actually together, okay?
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, to hold on that note.
But I think, I think it's good. I think my old man always used to say, always leave people wanting more, and I think there's wisdom in that.
There is.
There's lots. This has been the first one. Maybe we'll do it again, and it'll be different and different layers, and so on and so forth. I think that the thing that's just kept buzzing away in the background with me when I'm considering you, David, is just a remarkable an internal remarkable transformation from a guy who, and I relate because I struggled at school as well, labeled like I'm stupid and I'm different and I'm not, a hairdresser, all that stuff. And then not only going through, a training that any human being would consider challenging. And then doing it in kind of, I don't know what it was, like half the time or whatever it was, is just so interesting to me because it shows me that you were able to access, Erkan talks about genius, like able to access something else beyond your intellect. And I suppose to access that way of being in a way that just kind of, you held the line and didn't let, that ego, that old man, that whatever in, and it's just fascinating. I mean, I in Landmark, I got to the seminar leader program, and then that was as far as I got. And it looked so simple, to go on, to become a seminar leader and a Landmark forum. It looked simple, but it was far from easy, and I just
100%.
I'd love to get into the detail of some of the experiences that happened for you along the way that you were able to do that.
Yeah, and you know what? I would, again, anytime would love to share the breaking down of what was David and the emergence of something else. You could label that forum leader, but from an ontological point of view, it's a way of being, and who we're being is everything in life. It's everything. If you don't have what you want, look at who you're being. If you've got something in your life that you don't want, look at who you're being. It is everything. And of course, I've got stories about that. And maybe that we'll leave them wanting more, Simon. I love that. That's wonderful.
Beautiful stuff. What a great conversation. I just want to finally I want to acknowledge both of you. I want to acknowledge you, David. I find your I remember someone saying about Werner, who I met on a couple of occasions, and then weirdly I found myself as an intern for him on some of his academic stuff online. That was a strange thing how that came about. But I remember someone saying about Werner, and I had this experience when I met him, like when you met him and you were in his presence, you really, really, really felt like he was so with you and so present to you. And I have that experience of you. You're so light, and so present. And the way, when we've spoken, like you're just, as you say in these parts, you're just a chummy, like you're a guy, and yet you'll finish this call and then you'll go and be in that next state, and you will be that way. I have no doubt. It's so approachable, so connected, and I can see the massive impact that you're making, particularly with these Indigenous people. Really amazing. So I just really want to
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you. And Erkan, thank you. This is, it really, I feel uplifted. I feel light. It's been fun. And this whole thing is a great idea. Kudos to both of you. Wonderful.
Thank you, David. So if you're watching this video and you're a graduate, maybe you're reliving some of your stories, get in touch with myself or Simon so we can schedule you in to have a conversation with us. If you're not a graduate at Landmark Forum, we're going to put the details of Landmark down below this, and we would say get in touch and go to an introduction if you want to, or just register and experience Landmark Education's curricula for yourself. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
And cut. Wow, beautiful. Where's David?
Oh, he's gone.
I've done that before. He just like straight away. Can't wait to get away. He's got a flooded house. Oh wow! Shall we do a little bit like this, like after we get rid of the guests? Just don't like talk about them a little bit.
Definitely, yeah. And we could just keep this on. We can. There's blooper reels.
No, he's coming back in. Hold on a second.
Did you want to say anything else?
We were just laughing ourselves. We were just laughing because we thought like he couldn't wait to get away. He's got a flooded house to deal with. Don't be talking to us idiots.
Right, mate, that's been dealt with.
That's been dealt with.
Really.
Listen, thank you for your time, mate. Always a pleasure.
Not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, I came out of the closet, the naked closet, about 3 years ago, and before that, I would have considered someone like myself an absolute freak. Like, just what the fuck? I mean, I thought nakedness was for Germans, nudists, and people on LSD.
Yeah.